All right, I believe we are live. Here we go. What's up, everybody? I know it's a random time on a Thursday. This video will be available for like 30 days or something like that, but it's just a little live session to kind of pop back over, or bop back over, go back over my lovely time and experience with the CrossFit Live or CrossFit Open, and just kind of my thoughts on rehab and training and performance and everything like that. So obviously I participated in the CrossFit Open these past 3 weeks, and truth be told, when we got down to the first one went decent. I did time cap, but it was it was not a very easy workout, and I really did come into it not fully trained for CrossFit. It was kind of a last minute decision. It just sounded like something fun. I thought it was later in the year when I decided to do it, and then all of a sudden I was like, I've got 6 weeks to train. And then of course hurt my shoulder, which made a difference in my training as well. What are you gonna do? But anyway, so my first one went a lot better than I thought. I mean, it was a ton of wall balls and box jump overs, and they're like, box jump overs are one of my least favorite things outside of burpees, which was the last one, so go figure. But I felt decent about the training or the performance. Then we get into the second one, and I don't know what it was, but I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't recovering well. My kids were sick. And I went into it and I did not do very well. Yeah, I didn't time cap, but I could not for the love of God get a pull up that wasn't a kipping pull up, and it was supposed to be various types of like three types of pull-ups, and I only did one type. And then I got really sick and I forgot to enter my scores. So that one was like, cool, bust on that front. And I was kind of bummed about that. That was unfortunate. And so then I got sick in the aspect, I got either food poisoning or a stomach bug. I don't really know, but either way, it knocked me out for about 6 days. My recovery, I maybe from when I got sick until when the next the 26.3 dropped, I ate maybe like 2,000 calories. So it was, and I'm talking about like within 5 days, I ate maybe 2,000 calories because I just could not eat. I was eating or drinking bone broth, and that was about what I was consuming. So I did go into 26.3 with no expectations. I'd already missed my score count, with no expectations of doing anything other than just trying to perform it. And so I basically there's 3 different versions. There's RX, scaled, and foundations. I basically did the foundations because I was just wanting to get it done, but I knew I was not going to compete. And I did terrible, so I was like, whatever. But I did it. And that's what counts. And so it leads into kind of my overarching theme and kind of how I view my philosophy on, I guess, competition in general is that I think everybody should compete in some regards, but everybody's competition looks different. I am not a paid athlete. I pay myself to compete. What is that? Like, that's silly. So my priorities of when it comes to actual competition and time and how I'm functioning, what I'm doing, and everything like that is vastly different and that's how it should be for everybody. A paid athlete, whether it's Olympics, CrossFit, NBA, MLB, whatever, they are paid. That's their job. So their priorities look very different. For me, and a lot of people who I try and speak to, is my competition is the fact that I'm showing up for my family every day. That's what the ultimate goal is to be the healthiest, most vibrant version of myself for my kids, for my husband, for the community that I serve, and everything like that. And so when I actually look at competition, I know I'm not going to compete against, especially in like a CrossFit world where you're literally competing against like the professional athletes, which is cool. I can see their scores and go, well, I'm nowhere near that. But the fact is that I am competing, and most people are afraid or have no interest in it. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that competition, whatever it might look like, is important because it gives you a sense of a goal to reach. Like I said, it was not within my realm for this to get on the scoreboard. I think I maybe landed, when I compare my scores, I maybe landed in the 60th percentile, but again, it's not recorded because I didn't record it. It's not that important to me. Now, the athletes that I do work with, that it is important, that's how I scale their rehab program. So if I'm looking at somebody who's injured or hurt or having weaknesses or pain or wanting to get back from pain to performance. It's all dependent on how their actual goals are. So for me, when I hurt my shoulder, my goal was to be able to participate in the CrossFit Open to the best of my ability, knowing that I just want to give it my all. Knowing I'm not going to scale or to score as high as what I want. I'm probably going to scale, but my goal was to keep competing. Now, if I work with an athlete whose goal is to get into the CrossFit Open and try and compete and actually make it to the next round, how I progress their rehab, how I progress their performance is going to be largely different than how I did it for myself, versus like the mom who's just trying to come back from her first or second or third baby, to the high school athlete. How you function, performance, rehab, or anything like that has to be very specific to your goals. And so that's where I think like a lot of the mark has been missed when it comes to like specific rehabilitation, like going to a physical therapy office, is there are more people looking to just walk upstairs. There are more people just looking to garden without pain, and that's a very important goal for that person, and you have to get there. But the thing is you cannot put that goal to somebody who's trying to compete at a much different level, higher level, the whatever it is. But that's kind of where like things function as far as how I look at this CrossFit thing, is that for me, my goal was the priorities still matched. I had to show up for my family every day. I had to make sure that I wasn't so exhausted, so injured or anything like that, that my family wasn't able to function. I had to take care of kids. I had to make sure my husband didn't need anything, and vice versa, and make sure that I was making food when needed and cleaning when needed, and just doing the things that are basic everyday life things. Now add to it, that's like professional athletes have that as well. But then we add into the things that I still also had to show up for my job. And so I am a full-time employee on top of like the business that I do. And so I had to make sure that I was able to show up and serve the community that I do deeply care about, which is the sports medicine and spine clinic and outreach that I do for high school students, for athletes, for patients. It is very important to me to show up and be the best version of myself. So my goals match that, which is when I needed rest, I took rest. When I needed to push my competition, I was able to do that, knowing that it's not going to look the same as the professional CrossFit athletes. Their goals are exactly the same as mine, but their job is to compete. And so how they show up for their job is vastly different than I show up for my job. And so that's something just to keep in mind as, you know, if you are a person looking for rehab, you are a person looking to reach that, like going from pain to peak performance. You've had an injury, a weakness, a mobility problem that has kept you from doing the things that you love. You have to prioritize your goals and where that lies, and how you show up for that. So if your goals are show up for your family and your job, but just be a healthy, vibrant version of yourself, then you cannot say, well, I'm not going to do the housework, I'm going to go do my workout. No, I have to do my housework, and I struggle at this. My husband loves it, but I struggle at this drastically because I'm like, I gotta get my workout in. Sorry, coffee. And that is all is well, but is that one of my goals? And so I struggled with that quite frequently, which was like, I gotta get my workouts in because I'm training for this CrossFit Open, and you know, I sometimes didn't show up the way that I needed to for my family or for my job, and I had to adjust that. And so yeah, I came into the CrossFit Open with minimal amount of training and my priorities not being a CrossFit Open. And that's how I basically take my own personal experience, but how I relate all to you if you were ever to be working with me, is that the first, like, we'll go through what's your problems and I want to know about those. And then the real thing that we're going to hone into is what are your goals? What are you wanting to get done? And let's match the rehab and the strength and the performance to you. That's how it should look for everything, whether you're doing rehabilitation, whether you're doing strength and conditioning, whether you're training for something. And like I said, the training can be relevant. Maybe you're just training to be able to stay in the garden for more than 45 minutes. Maybe you just want to go on an hour walk and it not be painful. Maybe you want to go grocery shopping and be able to carry your own groceries. When I say training, you have to think of yourself as an athlete, but every athletic competition is different, and some are scored and some are not. And you keep your score yourself, and that's where it's like defining success for yourself. So all of that to be said is that, it was a wild ride. I will be doing the CrossFit Open again next year, but I will actually be prioritizing it a little bit higher because this was just an adventure. I haven't decided if I'm going to compete in anything else this year. It's still early. It's only March. And I keep telling myself, no, it's probably time to like take a break and like not go crazy. And I already feel the itch to like start trying to compete for something again, which is going to drive my husband bonkers, but he loves I don't know. So I'm looking at some different races that I might be participating in at the end of the year. We'll find out. But the big purpose is match your goals to your priorities. And so you basically first have to find your priorities. What are they? What does success look like to you? And how are you going to frame your life around that? And you have to frame your life around that. If you are creating priorities, goals, and then your life doesn't change, you don't prioritize it around it, or they don't match up, then you're never going to succeed at what you want to do. And it should be your success, not other people's success. That's the main factor that comes into this, is what's your success. Not society's, not, all of that. But anyways, that's a different topic for a different live session. But you got to figure out what your priorities are and what your goals are. And, like I said, just because my competition looks like CrossFit or running, doing half marathons or anything like that, that doesn't mean that I'm going to push that on you if I work with you. I'm going to ask you what's your priorities. And, I just worked with somebody who was like, I just want to feel good. And so we had to put an actual goal to that, because that's hard to mark your progress. But like, we find different things. And so they came back to me and said, like, I feel more energy. My low back doesn't hurt as much, and I'm able to do the things that I love more. So we put those into actionable steps to get those goals. And that's very important. So always remember that your goals matter and you have to prioritize them. Competition matters, but everybody's competition is different. Pick something you want to compete in. Compete is all a relative term. And if you need help getting there, that's what I'm here for. Is I'm here to get everybody back to doing what they love. It's not going to be the same intensity as what I do, or it might be even bigger intensity than what I do, and that's awesome. It's what I'm here for, and what I love to do, and how I serve people. And so, think about it. If you have some goals that you're trying to succeed at and things you want to do, then get after it. And we'll be doing another live session here soon, but this was just my thoughts on the CrossFit Open, and maybe next year people want to join and we can all do it together. Everybody have a blessed day, and thanks for joining me along on this adventure, and let's find our priorities, our goals, and let's compete. Let's go, buddy. Oh, geez. Here we go. I know this connection's slow.